Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's guest, Barbara Levin. She is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Customer Community at a company called SafetyChain Software. Her topic, supplier compliance, challenges throughout the food safety chain. Barbara is a frequent speaker and publisher in the Enterprise Resource Planning and Software-as-a-Service community. Barbara is best known for working with customers to increase understanding of the role technology plays in meeting strategic business initiatives. At SafetyChain, she is focused on building awareness throughout the food safety and quality community. She strives to implement innovations such as food safety chain management. Her mission is to help companies stay ahead of the growing complexities of global enforcement of food regulations and requirements. Now, welcome with me, Barbara Levin. Barbara?
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me today.
Would you like to add anything to your introduction?
No, I think that was fabulous. Thank you.
Well, Barbara, we are very excited about having you on today's show. Let's begin. Which types of companies comprise the food safety chain?
Well, the types of companies that comprise the safety chain and that are affected by supplier compliance issues and challenges, and they're really, of course, any company that participates in the growing production, distribution, and, of course, the selling of food for humans and pets. So we're really talking about growers and suppliers of ingredients and raw materials, manufacturers, distributors, importers, food services companies, and food retailers. And, I know that you wanted me to address the challenges of these companies. While each one of these types of supply chain participants has his own unique challenges in managing supplier compliance, we would probably have to have a 5-hour radio show to go through all of those. So they do share some common challenges, however. So let me kind of review what those are. They're all challenged with, of course, managing the complexities of suppliers in a global food supply chain. Different countries have different requirements, different customers have different specifications, and they have to worry about, with suppliers, managing the ever-changing regulatory third parties such as GFSI and, of course, customer compliance specs and requirements. There's a difficulty in just tracking and going through the mounds of paperwork that comes in from suppliers. Another challenge is the accessibility of the supplier compliance documents for timely analysis of safety and quality test results. This paper is often in different formats. Sometimes the test results are different. They're in different locations. And it's hard to access this information for identifying issues, for audits, for performance trending. And, last but not least, today those that are selling food, the services and retail community, they want transparency. And it's hard to provide transparency if all of your documents are in different formats and they're siloed. One of the things that I also like to say is whenever we have a discussion, Andy, of supplier compliance, it's always those in another part of the food supply chain talking about, suppliers. And I like to say, well, suppliers are people too. They've got challenges. They've got to communicate timely and accurate information. That's typically different for every one of their customers. They've got to keep up with the continuously changing specs of their customers. So there's a lot of challenges out there, and the good news is there's a lot of solutions today to help people deal with them.
Well, Barbara, that's an excellent summary of which types of companies comprise the food supply chain. As you know, our listenership is composed of professionals who are concerned about food management in production, food quality, food safety, and food security issues. What types of challenges do these food supply chain companies face when it comes to supplier compliance?
Well, I think that, we just sort of went through those challenges. I can summarize those again of, challenges and the complexities of the supply chain, ever-changing regulatory and customer compliance, the paperwork, the accessibility, and again, the transparency. I think those are all the key challenges.
Wonderful. As we look at today's complex society and how things are changing for food safety, we're looking at some of the issues of transition. What are the traditional methods that have been used to document and manage supplier chain compliance in those activities?
So the supplier compliance, Andy, has typically really been a very, very manual process, especially in mid-sized companies. There's manually tracking documents such as registrations, audit documentation, insurance documents, and more. And then, of course, there are all the FSQA documents such as certificates of analysis or COAs. And it can take hours, if not even days, to pour through all of these. And, this time is money, right? This means that all of the product is on hold before it can go into production or be released to the next point in the chain until all of the results are examined. And, some companies, it's not all manual. Some companies have all of this supplier documentation electronically. But I always like to steal a line from my colleague, Dan Bernkoff, and say, just because something is electronic doesn't mean it's automated. In other words, if documents are in different systems that don't talk to each other, sometimes information is in different locations. It's siloed information. So it makes it very hard to access and utilize that information for trending and analysis. But, of course, today we're seeing more and more participants in the food supply chain seeing them adopt technology that creates a safety chain that automates many of the FSQA functions, including supplier compliance, at all points in the supply chain. And that promotes upstream and downstream transparency, as well as supplier performance trending, reporting, and scorecarding.
Fascinating. Let me ask you, what are the implications of the new Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, supplier challenges?
Well, that's another one that we can probably spend hours and hours on, Andy. I'm not a FSMA expert, but to keep it short, let me kind of focus on two components of FSMA for suppliers. One being the Food Safety Modernization Act's Foreign Supplier Verification Program, and the other Voluntary Qualified Importer Program. Now, as of today's date, February 27th, 2013, we're still waiting for the final rules, but there's some things that we do know. The Foreign Supplier Verification Program is a mandate that for the first time importers will have, and I'm going to quote FSMA language here, an explicit responsibility to verify that their foreign suppliers have adequate preventative controls in place to ensure that the food that they produce is safe. Now, the Voluntary Qualified Importer Program will provide for expedited review and importation by qualified importers, and that's going to be under a fee-based program. Eligibility will be based on things like risk, compliance history, record keeping, audits, testing, and more. But I think it's safe to say that overall, in terms of supplier compliance challenges, if you're a foreign supplier or working with foreign suppliers, you're going to have a lot of the same requirements for FSMA that you have for domestic supplier compliance. It's going to be about saying what you're going to do, doing what you say, making sure that it's working, all of the verification and validation, and most important, being able to produce on demand necessary records to prove all of the above.
Barbara, I remember specifically from my interview last year, you and your associates really honed in on something that was very helpful to me as a food auditor. I do audit these food safety plants. That is that when you have a computerized system and make an entry, you have an automatic date and time stamp I believe that's invaluable for your systems, particularly with these new FSMA regs. Let me ask you, how can such technology optimize supplier compliance challenges?
Sure, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, Andy, there are a variety of technology innovations today that can automate many supplier compliance challenges and turn supplier data into actionable information versus, merely managing documents. The solution offered by my company, for example, creates that automated safety chain that helps support and ensure supplier compliance and transparency from that proverbial farm to fork. It does this in 6 automated steps, and if you will, let me go through those quickly. In some high-risk areas, such as produce, a producer or manufacturer might decide to assess safety even prior to the supplier sending a COA or other safety and quality documentation. In these pre-harvest scenarios, biologists or other FSQA staff might actually go to that farm or field and do assessments at the source. And then they can send that information on forms set up in mobile devices on smartphones or tablets and send that information to the head of safety who can make decisions on harvesting or corrective actions. This is something that Dole Fresh Vegetables is using our solution to do. The second step in automating supplier compliance has to do with all the other documents that are required from suppliers, audit results, registrations, information about insurance, safety and quality test results, obviously. And technology can help set up automatic notifications and reminders so that you have all of these documents on time. In a third step of the 6 for automating supplier compliance, once all of these documents are received, and here's where solutions that really do true supplier compliance, separate themselves from document, management, is they're not just gathering the documents, they're analyzing them in real time. They're analyzing them to specifications. And when the real-time analysis detects deviations, such as an out-of-spec quality attribute or an out-of-spec safety standard, these systems can issue real-time alerts to all of the key stakeholders so that corrective actions can be taken, before, example, non-compliant ingredient goes into production and winds up ending up as a recall. In a fourth step, all of those documents, the test results, the proof of corrective actions, they get an unalterable time and date stamp, and they're electronically filed in a single central repository of data. I think that's what you were referring to, because that then becomes the repository for audits. Now, in a fifth step, for in-spec ingredients or raw materials or other supplies, systems can generate automated COAs, which allows people to manage by exception. Imagine the time that can be saved, Andy, if you don't have to go through all 500 supplier documents. 498 of those can just go on to the next point in the chain with a COA or other information. And now the food safety and quality manager just has to look at those 2. They can really focus their energies on corrective actions by managing by exception. And then, of course, last, that central repository of data is easily accessible. It's accessible anywhere, anytime. And anybody with the proper security credentials can log in. You can do performance trending. You can do supplier scorecarding. And back to the audits, if you have a customer complaint, guess what? You can hop on an airplane with your iPad and show that customer all of the results for that full transparency. In the end, you get transparency, you get compliance, and you get prevention, which turns into hard dollar return on investment.
Barbara, all of those features are fascinating to me as an auditor, because without that, then I'm faced looking at all these handwritten binders, which could have been scrawled out the day before I got there, and there's no real way for me to validate other than to drag that person in and have him stand in front of me and answer questions. So what I'm thinking is that your automated solution brings back something that was told to me the other day by one of my clients who said, Andy, that's not the way my granddaddy did it. And when we're talking about food safety, you're bringing an entirely different perspective in. You're talking about it's more than just my own operation. It's all of the operations that contribute to my final product.
Sure. It really brings back that efficacy. And again, we all know, right, that this is a fairly low-profit business. And so it's fascinating that you can have technology that will bring back that efficacy, that allows audits on real, unalterable information, and yet can pay for itself because you're eliminating all of those manual processes. You have better yield. You have better performance of your ingredients and raw materials. And you can identify the suppliers that are giving you the safest product at the lowest price. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. It's even a win for the suppliers because it makes it easier for them to work with their customers and get them all the information they need when they need it. So yeah, technology is a win-win for suppliers and their customers.
Well, Barbara, you've certainly been winning quite a bit. I received your email news releases, and I'm very impressed with your current client base. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind telling us about your goods and services at SafetyChain and your recent successes, if you don't mind.
Great, thank you. Well, we're very excited at SafetyChain. The whole concept of food safety chain management, having, if you will, this safety chain that lies ahead of every point in your supply chain to promote safety and quality with all of the participants in your supply chain. It helps be proactive with safety and quality instead of reactive. Think smoke alarm versus fire investigator, getting the right information to the right people at the earliest point possible. Our solution is SafetyChain for food, and it's got 5 real key benefits to customers. What we've been speaking about, of course, it ensures safety and quality compliance. It creates operational efficiencies that result in hard dollar ROI. It mitigates risks by helping to prevent withdrawals and rejections and recalls. It helps, as we've been discussing, it helps our customers be audit ready on demand. And, what this really ultimately does is protect a company's market value and their brand. Our modules integrate together for a comprehensive FSQA solution, or they integrate with existing investments. This is something that's very important to us. We understand that, while there are still companies out there that might still be mostly all manual, a lot of companies have already invested in various technologies like a supply chain system or a manufacturing or inventory or procurement. And we don't want companies to have to waste that investment. So our solutions, again, as I said, they can stand alone or they can integrate with existing investments. And our modules include, as we've been discussing today, supplier compliance and document management, COA automation, supplier reporting and scorecarding. Moving on from the supplier components, safety and quality data management, HACCP program automation, GFSI compliance, FSMA compliance capabilities, finished product testing, and customer compliance. So really, food safety and quality assurance from farm to fork in a very, I'll just throw in, cost-effective cloud-based environment. We're very excited to have customers like Dole Fresh Vegetables and Golden County Foods and Nature's Variety Pet Food, and I don't know, too many more to mention. Those are some of the recent press releases that went out. So we're very excited about what we're bringing to the market.
Well, Barbara, you have been a wonderful guest today. I understand that you are operating under a bit of a cold. I appreciate your appearance and your wonderful participation. Let me allow you now to conclude your remarks and just review for our audience the types of companies that are interested in supply chain management, the types of challenges they face, and your solution, unique at SafetyChain.
Great. Thank you very much, Andy, and thanks to the participants that are here on the show today. Again, any member or participant in the food supply chain can benefit from food safety chain management. We invite you to learn more by visiting our website at www.SafetyChain.com. We've always got a series of educational webinars with our customers and fabulous industry speakers. We have a new series, which we are calling FSMA Fridays. On the last Friday of every month, we'll be partnering with Dr. David Atchison from Levin Partners to bring the latest and greatest FSMA news to help you prepare. And you can go to our homepage and sign up for our blog. That's at www.safetychain.com again. That's how we'll be notifying people of FSMA Friday events. And I welcome anybody who'd like to get more information or might have questions for me to contact me directly. You can contact me at blevin, that's BLEVIN, at safetychain.com. And with that, Andy, always a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Well, Barbara, when the final regs do come out, I'd invite you to consider coming back on the show and letting us know how your software will help further compliance with these new regulations.
We would love that. Maybe we can do an interview on a Friday, and it can be part of your series as well as our FSMA Friday series.
Perfect. I look forward to it.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for your participation today, and I look forward to you in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.